It's very high, man. Listen, divorce was like unthinkable in the Albanian culture 30 years ago. Now it's normal. People would have, families would have gotten into blood wars over honor for a divorce. Like guns were drawn when people got divorced. And now it's not a big deal. So that just shows you from that ancient society how things have changed, let alone here in the US. What I mean by a generation of bastards is that so many children are born out of wedlock. Now in the old days, if somebody called you a bastard, you'd break their jaw. If someone called you a bastard, there was nothing. Look at the films where they show people in medieval Europe, and he's the bastard.
Being a bastard.
He's the bastard of Sir John Eliot III.
Yeah.
And Game of Thrones, Jon Snow was the bastard. So to be called the bastard was you're a lowlife, basically, right? And I'm not saying that you are if you are one. But what I mean by that is that you don't have the proper parental guidance. So many children are born out of wedlock. Men are not being men. I don't care if you marry the woman or not. You brought that child into this earth. You have a responsibility to that woman and to that child to make sure that they're okay, to make sure that they're being raised properly, that you have a social responsibility not only to them because you brought them into the world, but to society. And the problem is so many children now are born out of wedlock. They're full of rage. Brother, most of these violent crimes, if you study them statistically, are committed by children from a single parent home. Most violent crime, sexual crime. Look up I know my stuff. I get rusty sometimes because I store too much information up here. Is committed by children from a single parent home. So this is why we see the rage, why we're seeing the stuff that's happening in schools and the violence. And it's a lot more than just, firearms. I promise you. Yeah. So, and not to get into that subject, but real quickly, every house in Albania has a weapon. We've never had one mass shooting, ever. Right. But what we don't have is psychotropic drugs. Most children, the minute they get a little depressed, put them on this pill, put them on that. Why are the American people not demanding toxicology? Every shooter, we should draw blood. I want to know what they were on. I guarantee you there's a common denominator. Your answer's right in front of your face. Every time you turn on the TV and there's a commercial. If you're taking such and such, discontinue the use if you're experiencing, suicidal thought. Okay. Right. The answer's right there. Clearly some of these drugs make people...
Yeah, but I mean one of the fundamental things too that I see with people nowadays is
might want to cut that word out.
Not finding there's no sense of purpose. A lot of people, especially older people, people in their 50s, maybe even 40s, they can't figure out a way to benefit or bring any sort of value to society, and that is the worst thing for a human being. Having that feeling of no purpose and bringing no value, that is the most depressing thing.
Most people don't even want to know what they want to do in their life, even if it's just a dream. I'll sit there and talk to people, and I talk to a lot of young people because I've shifted more towards motivational speaking, inspiring people, with my work, the comeback team, to inspire people to never give up no matter where you are. I've had some of the most extraordinary people come on my show. People that are paralyzed from the neck down. People who lost everything. People who have been through addiction and crawled their way out of it and have turned their lives around above and beyond people that didn't have those problems. So I agree with you. I think one of the biggest problems we have is that most people don't know what their purpose is or what their why is. And the sad part is, instead of trying to figure that out and spend time on that, they waste their time in idle, stupid activities. I always say you'll never be a player if you're someone else's fan. I know that sounds a little weird, but I'll explain that. I can't tell you how many people I know watch sports. Nothing wrong with it. Everything has a time and purpose. But if all you're doing is one sport to the next, fantasy leagues, gambling, placing bets on the stuff, every stat, you're reading tons and tons of newspapers, and one way or the other, unless you're winning millions of dollars gambling, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of these really good guys at it, or girls.
Right.
You wasted so much time and resources and money on something that's never going to change your life. If anything, it costed you your life. Because by being a fan, you couldn't become a player. How can I be a player in the game of life if all I do is spend my time and my resources watching other people living their dreams? So that's why I say you'll never be a fan. I'm sorry, you'll never be a player if you're someone else's fan. Yes, you should admire people that are successful. But I mean when you're really a fan, all you do is sit there and watch and study and the jersey and paint the face. And you that time could have been used bettering your life or your children's life. Or so
it's the same thing as TikTok, scrolling Instagram.
That's very addictive.
Watching football.
I'm guilty of it.